Good evening and welcome to the third and final meeting this evening. My name is Dennis Buckley, Mayor of the City of Beech Grove, and at this time, we will call the meeting to order with roll call. We will begin on my left.
Buddy Temple and Councilman at Large.
Kevin Day, District 4.
Dave Harrison, District 5.
James Kaufman, Clerk Treasurer.
Robert Ferguson, District 3.
Craig Wiley, City Attorney.
Elizabeth Lamping, Counsel, District 1.
Brian Mackins, District 2.
Kara Ferguson, Counsel at Large.
Thank you, Council. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll do the invocation. Pastor Jerry Dickerson. Pastor?
My Heavenly Father, assembled in this room are political leaders you put over my life. They are policemen, firemen, officials that have been put over my life to protect me, give me a quality life. This is my family. This is my room of my people. I'm proud of them. I stand by them and I pray a blessing upon them. That is my role. My role is to pray that they have peace and they have honor in their lives. And we do exactly what the Bible says. We pull together as a family to bring peace and harmony into our community. And you even gave us, Father God, directions when you said, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Respect the Lord. It'll be health to your navel, which is your emotions, and strength to your bones, your body. I pray, Lord, that everyone assembled here feels respected and loved and cared for. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Pastor. Ask for a moment of silence for those we have lost since we've last met, including a friend of ours, Linda Harris. Thank you. We'll move to special presentations. We have 3 this evening. First is a small presentation from the Beech Grove Promoters Club. Earlier, we met and discussed the American Rescue Plan, and nonprofits, 501(c)(3)s, such as the Promoters Club, are eligible for assistance, and it's based on whether the council wants to vote to do that. Not tonight. Tonight is just the presentation. But this group, I've asked them to come forward. They have been a staple in this city for many, many, many years, and they have helped many people. But like everyone else, last year was very hard on them, and we're trying to work with them to get them back up and going again. So I'll turn it over to our friends at the Promoters Club. Tim? John?
Thank you. My name is Tim Latimer. I am the secretary for the Beech Grove Promoters Club. And I've prepared a statement. I've always thought that if I just read this, I won't ramble. So with your permission, I'll just read this letter that I've prepared. The Beech Grove Promoters Club was originally formed in 1953 by a group of Beech Grove businessmen and active citizens who wanted to promote the city of Beech Grove, which was rapidly expanding. In the early years, the club's contribution to the city was mostly in manpower. For example, the shelter houses, the original steel bridge, and the Veterans Memorial in Sarah Bolton Park were all built with the assistance of Promoters Club labor. In 1956, the club assisted the city in putting on Beech Grove's Golden Jubilee. The celebration was so well received, the Promoters Club continued with a similar celebration the following year, and has run ever since then as the Fall Festival and Parade. The club became instrumental in helping raise funds and secure donations for programs such as the Middle School Band Exchange with Scarborough, Ontario, the Pleasant Runs Children's Home, and Christmas decorations for Main Street. We still sponsor the Fall Festival, which, by the way, begins September 15th. In 1984, we started the fireworks show that, like the festival, is geared to help local organizations. The club invites and encourages local groups to take part in these events as a vehicle to raise funds for and awareness of their programs. That remains our focus today. The Beech Grove Promoters Club is a 501c organization and has partnered with local charitable and civic organizations to help them achieve their goals. We help sponsor the Cars R Us car show in October that raises funds for Beech Grove Shop with a Cop, Cottages for Kids, and other child-related charities. We help sponsor the Beech Grove Drug-Free Coalition. And this year we will be having their first art show, the Beech Grove Artist Collective, and that show will be August 14th. In addition, 10 years ago we established the Bill and Betty Cirillo Scholarship Fund, where we donate $1,000 to a Beech Grove graduating senior. The scholarship is open to Beech Grove, Lutheran, Roncalli, and Central 9 students. And of course, we continue to make annual contributions to several local programs and groups. In 2019, we contributed money to approximately 15 not-for-profit organization groups or special events. In the last 2 years, our ability to help has been diminished considerably. 2020 was a very difficult year for the Promoters Club. With the cancellation of the fireworks, fall festival, and car show, we had zero income for the year. We still had fixed expenses, as I already mentioned, and we tried to support as many donation requests as we could. We were still able to award our scholarship, and we donated hundreds of dollars to other groups. All combined, it took a great toll on our resources. Sponsoring these yearly events is expensive. In 2021, the club will spend over $4,000 on portable toilets alone. There are also electric bills, water bills, and of course liability insurance, which continues to increase at an alarming rate every year. We would like to think that our efforts help encourage homeowners and business owners to consider Beech Grove. With additional funding, we can continue to sponsor these popular events and grant donation requests. We are hoping the City Council will take into consideration the many years of service the promoters have provided. We are hoping that as funds become available, you will consider allocating a portion of those funds to the Beech Grove Promoters Club, thus allowing us to continue the traditions that have made Beech Grove a wonderful place to live and visit. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if I can't answer them, I'll turn them over to John. Okay, well, thank you so much for your
Tim,
time.
thanks.
Thank you very much.
And to you too, John, and your family as well.
Later on this year, the Pro Tem and the council will put together a plan to invest in the city, and these are one of the worthy organizations that you may consider helping support. The next item for special presentations is an update on the Franciscan Trail. At your last meeting, the Pro Tem asked for an update and had some questions concerning the trail. So I invited our friends at Crossroads and United to come here this evening. Crossroads designed the trail, and United Consulting is the inspector on the trail project. So I'm going to ask our friend Andrew Wolf to come up and give you an update and try and answer any question you may have concerning the Franciscan Trail. Andrew?
Thanks, Mayor, Council. I don't have any necessarily formal presentation. I offered Mayor at the end of last meeting. Bob, you had asked a couple questions. Said if anybody wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to get questions answered. As far as the schedule is concerned, that was some questions you had on schedule. Right now, the intermediate completion date for the project is November 15th of this year. The final completion date, and I'll kind of explain what these terms mean, is November 15th of 22. So what that means is the intermediate completion date is all work except for final landscape plantings and things like that will be scheduled to be completed in November of this year. The state gives a year for seed to take germination and things like that, erosion control items to kind of get established and whatnot. So they give a year for that process to take place. So that's why you have kind of a large gap for those aspects. You had asked about lighting on the project. There's no lighting planned for this project this time. The trail is open from dawn to dusk. That was a design decision that was made kind of in cooperation with the city, and a lot of public meetings were held to kind of answer some of these design decisions. But to answer your question, no, there's no lighting, and the trail is open from dawn to dusk. The other question you had about unit prices. If delays were to happen,
Right.
The material prices go up, things like that. When the contract was bid through the state, they locked in unit prices at that time. So if things were to get extended or whatnot, the city is not overcommitting for different unit prices and things of that nature. I think those are kind of the three major questions that you had. I'm more than happy to answer any other questions, but that's kind of where the trail's at right now. As far as, the schedule, they've set bridges. I think the city has posted some pictures of some bridges being set. Those are going in right now. The next kind of tasks, they're going to do foundation work around those bridges, set articulated concrete block. That's more of like an erosion control type thing to stabilize the earth around the bridge foundations. That's going to be taking place over the next couple weeks. Going into the middle to end of August, you're going to see a lot more earthwork being done. Common excavation, so if that's cut and fills, earthwork. More stone's going to be placed. Through November, you're going to start to see sidewalks, the HMA go down, the asphalt go down, curb sidewalks and ramps into November. And then final plantings, signs, pavement markings, kind of to the middle of November is where things are scheduled right now. I think maybe a concern is, well, why did they start and stop? I think that was another kind of question. So the nature of these projects is they're linear. It's a lot more efficient for a contractor to come in, do one operation, clear the whole trail, then they can come out or leave, the next operation come through. So that's kind of why you see a bulldozer might come through, do all the clearing at once for the whole trail. You see some downtime, they'll come back, a different operation, stone will come down. The other thing that we have to be sensitive of are DNR. There's permitting requirements where we have to have trees dropped a certain time frame of the year. So they kind of have to do that in the fall before, like for the bats. There's endangered species and things like that that they can only drop a certain amount of time. So that's kind of where it might seem kind of funny to the naked eye, but it's all those things are set from the state and natural resources. But you get better bid prices for allowing contractors to do that, and they're responsible for the job site, entire length of the project. So if there are any things that get damaged or there's concerns, you can let me know, let the mayor know, but the contractor is responsible for the job site the entire duration of the project. So more than happy to answer any questions. I can give you my contact information.
Has there been any major hiccups in the construction of the trail so far?
Right now, no.
Right now, no, because everything's been pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Okay.
I asked about lead time on the bridges. Everything seems to be on schedule as far as that's concerned. The contractor has requested some additional time for weather. I don't know where that stands at this point. Since I'm not overseeing the construction of it, that's more of a United question, but I can get that answered for you.
If anyone in our district asks if it's okay to walk on it, is that advised to kind of stay off of it at this point? Because I don't know.
Yeah,
Just wanted to ask.
I'm not qualified to give you that answer
Right.
because I'm not Morphe Construction, so
Yeah.
I'd hate to advise
right.
one way or the other, to be quite honest. Anything else?
Thanks, Andrew. I want to bring up United Consulting. They were hired as the inspector. They are making sure that the construction company follows the blueprints and constructs the project as designed. So as far as the day-to-day operations of Morphe Construction, these folks would be the ones who could answer any questions. So if you guys could give an update, I'd appreciate it.
Good evening, I'm Brian Miller with United Consulting. Our project inspector couldn't be here tonight, he had prior plans. Not much to add from what was said earlier, but they did set another bridge today, Bridge 4. Bridge 3 was set on July 22nd. Next week, they're going to hopefully deliver the next 2 remaining bridges. And then the following week after that, they hope to set those next 2 bridges. So in the next probably 3 weeks, all 4 of the bridges will all be set and in place. Like was told before, they're going to continue with the earthwork. And a lot of the frustration I know is that you don't feel like you see somebody all the time. The trail is in a pretty low-lying area, a lot of it. Anytime you get rain, they're not down just that day of rain. They're down several days sometimes. So a little bit of the frustration I know is not seeing somebody every day when you think you should, but they are pretty much on schedule for the October 15th. Some other kind of key dates according to the schedule, I think end of October into early November, they will be doing a lot of the paving and the sidewalks will be finished. Otherwise, I did not have much else to add. Did a good job of bringing everybody up to date.
What do you say to people who want to walk on it? I walk on it every day.
Okay. For the record, except for the mayor and the state and everybody else, I would, please do not. It's contractors responsible for the safety and everything on the project. It's a little big to delineate and protect the entire trail for the, it's lengthy. But we definitely do not encourage anybody to be in the project limits at this time, unfortunately, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else, please let us know.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Chris, thanks for coming out tonight. All right, that concludes the second presentation. Our final special presentation is from Tammy Ortman, who represents Lewis and Campus. And she is going to talk to you about replatting 115 acres of the old CSX property. And then we will have a public hearing on this. So we'll suspend the meeting for temporarily. And then the council will vote by resolution as to whether to replat this or not. So Tammy, welcome. And come on up.
Council, my name is Tammy Ortman. As the introduction of the mayor told you, I appreciate your time this evening. I represent Emerson Avenue LLC, who is the purchaser or was the purchaser in 2019 for the old CSX Railway. 15 acres. What we have sought to do is present to you a petition for a plat, and that would divide the 115 acres into 3 parcels. When it was originally purchased by Emerson Avenue, it includes 7 tax parcels. So to do anything that doesn't fall specifically along the lines of those tax parcels, we're here to ask you to replat in a way that makes it marketable or saleable, obviously, to a subsequent purchaser. When the property was purchased by Emerson Avenue, it had a plan, and we expected to construct on the site and be operational as milestone contractors. Unfortunately, we discovered some buried railroad ties, a lot of them, a lot of them. And so that put a monkey's wrench in the project. And ultimately, Milestone had to do some other things, kind of redirect itself. And so now there is some activity and some market interest, and we would like to accommodate that interest by replatting. And we've selected 3 plats to be Convenient both for the city and the community, and then also to protect the interest for the ultimate purchasers. The largest tract is 85 acres, and it's represented in green, as you'll see on the board closest to you. This is expected to be sold for an industrial development, which would include a large structure, employment opportunities at least equal to or greater than that proposed by Emerson Avenue. The blue section is a separate parcel, and notably, each one of the parcels has separate street access, so that we're not restricting, we're not expecting any city or community contribution to developing an access way, because there is already existing access. And then the third parcel, not labeled number 3, but the highlighted pink that you'll see is the railroad track on the northeast side, as well as that small strip that accesses Subway Street for the protection of Shelby Gravel, which is the existing owner of that exception. So the purpose is not to exclude any access, not to prevent any access or use of the property in the future. So the 3 lots simply are the best marketing opportunity with the least burden to the city, we think. Wow. And that's why it's been presented to you in this way. So you are all familiar with the CSX property. It's certainly been a topic of conversation for this board and the community for decades. But the property is a brownfield, so its use in the future is extremely limited. There are deed restrictions that preclude any use for residential purposes, any use for park or recreation uses, any use for school, agricultural purposes, and further, no groundwater can be used for any human consumption or any gardening or agricultural purposes. So there are limitations to what the property can be repurposed for. It is currently zoned I-4. There is no proposal to make any changes to that whatsoever. That would allow the property to be used for warehousing, for manufacturing. It also permits utility use, a post office, construction or heavy equipment uses. There are other permitted uses generally under the Marion County classification for I-4, but those are precluded under the environmental restrictions. Gardening, daycare, some secondary education purposes, those cannot be used under the current deed restrictions. So because of IDEM's necessary control over the brownfield and the environmental contamination that happened during the CSX ownership, there are, again, more restrictions. The zoning classification does allow a few other things as special uses, which would have to come back to this council if a later purchaser would like to use one of those or apply for that special exception. There are also some temporary uses that are permitted, but again, that would require this council's consent. So, parcels 1, 2, and 3 are subject of the preliminary plat petition. We have also requested waivers, more of a technical sense than of an actual one, because the law in Indiana changed effective July the 1st. This petition is not brought before the Marion County Council, but as an excluded city to you. It's kind of new. I understand that there are some regulations that may come in the future, but perhaps have not been identified yet or adopted. So what I have presented to you is generally what would have been required if the petition would have been presented to Marion County. So in that way, we have asked for a couple exceptions. Generally, the petition would require a traffic plan, but because each one of these parcels has street access, that's not necessarily required. It is a small subdivision, not a large subdivision. That would be classified as 4 or more lots. And then the separate request for a waiver would be the condition for infrastructure plans. Because of the necessary cleanup of the buried railroad ties, whether that's going to be 16 feet or 20 feet or 24 feet, until they start digging, I won't be able to answer that question for you, and neither will anyone else. So we're not sure where a proposed purchaser and end user would put those infrastructure plans. at this point. We'll have to wait and see what the removal of those railroad ties and the surrounding dirt will necessitate. I'm certainly open to any questions you might have.
Yeah, so you're stating that, the traffic plan, you're wanting us to not really talk about that, but yet we've got an 85-acre lot here that you're proposing for warehousing, which is gonna bring large semis nonstop. You're thinking that right now that the roads that we have is gonna take care of that?
If you don't mind if I move away from the microphone a bit. There is a private street that is planned for construction, and it is from Subway Street here, where Shelby Gravel now uses the property, and it goes all the way down to the 85-acre tract, and then there's also access directly here. So there is an input and an output, depending on which way later in time the traffic is best used.
So then there's gonna be you're saying a traffic light right there at Subway?
I don't know whether that means a traffic light or what the future plans may be, because in part, that will depend on who the user is and what purpose they may give it. But regardless of what that is, that development plan would have to come back to you for approval.
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions?
This is a public hearing. Counselor, has anyone signed up to speak?
Not on this issue.
Is there anybody out there who would like to speak on this matter only? Yes, sir.
Curious about how Connection Avenue, is that the dividing line for Beech Grove and Indianapolis?
I think the connection, I think that when it gets to the bridge, on the south side is Beech Grove, on the north side is Indianapolis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was just curious how much traffic is gonna be ultimately on Connection Avenue, Troy, Southern.
I don't think it's because it's closed down there now. Yeah, I don't think that's going to change. I think the development calls for the main entrance to be at Big Four. So that will be the impacted area.
So the entrance at Troy and Connection, that's an established route.
That won't change.
That won't be used or?
No, I don't think it'll be used at all. I think the Big Four road, Big Four and Cincinnati, where they meet, I think that will be into play, and possibly Subway in Emerson. A light there, that might come into play. We'd have to work, that's Indianapolis jurisdiction, so we would have to work with them on that. But I think the main entrance for the 85 acre parcel council would come off of Big Four Road. Yes?
Since when you bought it, I'm guessing and you found the contamination of the railroad ties, it wasn't disclosed?
There was an environmental survey done before we purchased it. It went through IDEM, was classified as a brownfield property. But this particular buried pit was not identified in the soil samples or in the environmental, so it was later identified.
So who would be responsible for the cleanup?
The purchaser.
The new purchaser?
Correct. Until it's disturbed, we don't change it. But if Emerson Avenue would start digging a hole, for instance, to construct a building, then that would have to be removed.
Counselors, do you have questions for legal counsel?
I do not.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and should we just do the resolution 6?
That would be great. I would also just fail to mention, we did provide notice, registered mail notice to all property owners abutting any part of the 115 acres to owners deed. So,
Thank you.
Counselors, you should have resolution number 6 in your packet. This time, I'll ask the clerk to read the resolution into the record. Jim?
Resolution of the Common Council, City of Beech Grove, 2021, number 6. Summary, this resolution of the Common Council, City of Beech Grove Council approves a preliminary subdivision plat with waivers of conditions for the Amtrak Industrial Park, a 3-lot subdivision of approximately 115 plus or minus acres located east of Emerson Avenue and south of Subway Street. Whereas the petitioner and owner, Emerson Avenue LLC, has submitted its petition for plat approval for a 3-lot subdivision of 115 plus or minus acre tract from the current tax parcels. APN parcel IDs 49-10-22-112-001.000-700, 49-10-22-116-005.000-702, 49-10-22-124-002.000-700, 49-10-27-110-001.000-300, 49-10-27-110-002.000-302, 49-10-27-111-001.000-302, and 49-10-27-113-001.000-302. The complete legal description of the subject property is attached as Exhibit A. Whereas the subject property is currently zoned I-4, no change to this existing zoning classification has been requested. Whereas street access is available to Subway Street and Emerson Avenue to the north, and both Cincinnati Street and Big 4 Road to the south. Whereas the petitioner has requested certain waivers for infrastructure and traffic planning necessitated by the unique location, surrounding properties, and certain existing deed restrictions, which will require specific site development plans by future owners and further approval by this council. Whereas the council finds that approval of this requested waivers do not violate the general intent and purpose of the subdivision control ordinances or Indiana law. Whereas the proposed petition for plat approval as submitted is consistent with the statutory purposes to encourage the improvement of health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the citizens of the city of Beech Grove. Whereas the council was given jurisdiction for this petition for plat approval pursuant to Indiana Code 36-3-1-7, 36-7-4-201, et sec. Effective July 1st, 2021. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council, City of Beech Grove as follows. 1. The preliminary petition for the plat approval of Amtrak Industrial Park, consisting of 3 lots located east of Emerson Avenue and south of Subway Street, particularly described in Exhibit A, is hereby approved with the following waivers of conditions and commitments. A. Infrastructure plans are waived pending site development and improvement plans. B. Traffic plans are waived pending site development and improvement plans. 2. The petition for plat approval of Amtrak Industrial Park shall be subject to A. Submission of final plat petition. B. Submission of engineering and infrastructure construction plans prior to site development and improvement within 2 years of final plat approval. C. Submission of traffic control plans prior to site development and improvement within 2 years of final plat approval. D. Submission of private street easement and maintenance agreement within 2 years of final plat approval. So resolved this date, August 2nd, 2021, in regular session of the Common Council, City of Beech Grove, Indiana.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions or concerns from council members? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve resolution number 6, 2021.
I'll make said motion to approve resolution number 6, 2021.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying yes. Aye. Those opposed, the same sign. Please register your vote.
Thank you. Mayor, will we keep those by any chance, or does this go back? I just didn't, I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, maybe I'll ask the mayor if he thinks.
Yeah, we can hang on to them for a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
Thank you, Tammy. Council, you have been presented a printed copy of the minutes of the previous meeting dated July the 6th, 2021. Floor is open for any questions, comments, or corrections.
I have a, what did I do with it?
No questions, comments, or corrections.
sorry,
I'll ask
Mayor.
for a motion to approve the minutes.
I have, sorry, I was looking for it.
She found a typo on
So
my end.
on the second page, I spoke with Jim about it briefly. The second page, where it says General Ordinance 5, 2021, second reading, it says Council Day made a motion to approve General Ordinance 5, 2021 on second reading only, and then Common Council Day seconded the motion, which was approved. So I don't know, I think we'll just have to fix that, right?
Yeah, I'll go back to this and figure out who, if he really did the first or second, but. Yeah, he didn't do both, I know that. Yeah, I'll adjust that once, after I get the answer.
Other than that amendment, anybody? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll make said motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next up is public comments. I'll turn to legal counsel. Craig.
Yes, Mr. Grenoble. Keep it 3 minutes, good sir.
Oh, sorry. I'll have to read really quick. Good evening, members of the Beech Grove Common Council. I'm Dave Grenoble, and I live at 115 South 12th Avenue in Beech Grove. First off, I want to make sure that everybody understands, I don't think anybody in this room is opposed to people getting the equipment or the pay that they're able to get. This isn't a personal issue with the firefighters for me. Got a lot of friends in public safety. So for this to be, anybody make this a personal issue is incorrect. I come to you this evening asking you to reject the resolution of tonight's agenda for these reasons. To the best of my knowledge, the city has never entered into any agreement with public safety longer than 2 years, and that has been for pay increases and benefit changes. Every year, the city presents a budget for 1 year based off of revenue projections. This being a 20-year, $90 million plus agreement is unheard of. IFD's budget for 2021 is over $190 million for 1 year, and a new budget will be presented in 2022 based off of funds available and needs of the department by Indianapolis City County Council. It won't be a 20-year with increases yearly. If you pass this resolution and move forward, you're putting a huge financial burden on this city and the next 5 administrations. A financial burden under contract, and what happens if the city doesn't have the revenue to support the dollars promised? Will someone need to cut finances to other departments or cut entire departments to meet this contract? Now, before you all say the money is there, how do you know? This city, like most cities, has had nice growth in assessed value over the last few years. As much as some political people and elected officials like to take credit for increased assessed value, they don't have anything to do with increased assessed value or decreased assessed value. Assessed value is figured by paperwork submitted on property purchases, permits presented for repairs or updates, and refinancing of properties. Beech Grove has seen increased assets value since 2017, thanks to the 2 hailstorms in 2016 and all the new roofs, sidings, gutters, and window projects. 2018, the housing market was flooded with buyers, which increased purchase price levels, just like 2019 and 2020. And 2021 might be a record for increased assessed value. But with all this tremendous growth comes a warning you need to be aware of. As of 12:01 a.m. August 1st, the mandate to halt evictions and foreclosures expired. What's important to you? 13 million evictions and foreclosures are expected, and another 15 million people who say they are struggling to make their rent or mortgage payments. This bubble will burst fourth quarter of 2021, carry over into 2022, and maybe 2023. And assessed values will drop 2023 taxes paid 2024, when the city would owe 3.4 million plus to IFD. Now, if you look at the yearly increases, our assessed value on this city would have to increase $15 million every year just to meet the increase, which means you're looking at $300 million in 20 years. Anybody here think Beech Grove assessed value is going to go up $300 million in 20 years? It's not going to happen, folks. Since none of us know how things will be in the next 5 to 20 years, or if we even be here, how can you approve a 20-year commitment with no knowledge of revenue to support this contract and consider yourself responsible to the people of this city? For these reasons, I ask you to reject this resolution, go back to the table, maybe consider putting it on a ballot so we, the people who provide the funding, can vote on it. Thank you. I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Mr. Grenoble. Dan?
Good evening, Council. Dan McMillan, 81 South 13th. I was former clerk treasurer for the last 2 terms. And I would just like to come before the council to let you know I oppose this. This is the most one-sided contract I've ever seen in my life. I don't want you guys to make the second biggest mistake Beech Grove's ever made. Some of you might want to know what number 1 was. That was getting rid of our 911 dispatch center. Has anyone called Marion County and tried to get help for anything? They put you on hold. You may wait 3 minutes before they even answer the phone or longer. This is a travesty. So we lost our dispatch center. We didn't have to sign a 20-year contract. We didn't have to pay $90 million over that 20 years. We lost our library. Same thing. We didn't have to sign no 20-year contract and, $90 million. This is crazy. They took, Indianapolis Fire Department absorbed Warren Township, Perry Township, and Franklin Township, and there again, they're not under a 20-year contract. They're not going to spend $90 million. The citizens of Beech Grove are being taken advantage of, and anybody can vote that votes for this needs to stop and think what they're voting for. I'm telling you right now, this will bankrupt our city, this alone. If you think that when we can't make the payments, that 2 people from the senior center laying them off or closing it down is going to make a difference, it won't. The Parks Department, what little bit of staff we have down there, it will not happen. Where are they going to go to? DPW, privatize it, get rid of it. It's crazy. Then when they get rid of them, what's next in line? Our police department? We need more police. We don't need more firemen. 1 station is more than enough. We need more police, and put that money towards the police department, not the fire department.
Thank you, sir.
You have a question? You have a question?
Yeah, I do. Mr. McMillan, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
For that, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to the library, isn't there a line item in our taxes that we pay that goes to support the public library?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure in Franklin, Perry, and Warren, that it's coming out of the property taxes. That's what I'd like to see happen here. Beech Grove should not be held hostage to their high payments.
Okay, but what I mean though is that you brought up the library, how we lost the library, but there's a line tax item that funds the library. We had no control over that. And when it comes to those
We had
townships,
control. We had people that was appointed to the library board. The mayor had appointments to that. So yes, we had say-so in whether the library left or not.
Okay.
Did anybody really get with the city or citizens? No.
okay, and when it comes to the other townships that merged with IFD, they had a specific line tax item that was specific for fire protection service. And IFD just assumed that tax base, correct? Assumed.
Citizens of Beech Grove held hostage on that because it's gonna bankrupt your city.
Right. Well, I brought that up about a specific tax for fire protection. That has to be brought to the General Assembly, and the state legislators have to vote on that to establish a specific tax base for just fire suppression service. For an included city, they don't have a specific tax number that is given to just fire themselves. Everything goes into the general fund, and then the city votes on a budget to provide how many funds to police, fire, and sanitation.
Well, on the same subject, we could do it ourselves and go down to one fire station and save 50% of our budget. We don't need Indianapolis Big Brother to sit there and tell us you're gonna pay this, or we're not gonna run equipment in there. We pay taxes in Marion County, and we pay Beech Grove taxes both.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Craig, anybody else sign up?
No, ain't nobody else.
I'd like to speak as well. As of 112, from day one, I support this, and I still do. I did this job for 30 years. I know what the city's going to get. They are going to get a top-rated Class 1 fire department. And as a result of this investment that you should approve this evening, we are going to do something that we should have done a long time ago. We are going to enhance our police department. We are going to build a new station, and Councilor Day, Councilor Templin, at the last meeting, you stated that you want to see our police officers get a substantial raise. I couldn't agree more. If you do this, we can. We could, over the next 3 years, we could substantially raise the base salary of the police officer for the Beech Grove Fire Department, where we can retain police officers, we can hire more police officers, we could put more police officers in the school, and we can have a new police station, which all of you know we need desperately. This is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. The first year of the agreement, and you've seen it, $3.24 million with the city of Indianapolis. That's a bargain. Because if we don't do it, I'm going to come to you and tell you you need to buy a fire engine, you need to do something with the stations, and this budget for the fire department will be well over $4 million. So it's high time we act. We have a first-rate chief, Ernest Malone here, who's the salt of the earth. He will lead this bunch here, and we will have an excellent service. So I'm looking forward to it, and I ask that you vote yes tonight on this contract, so that's it. Anybody else, Craig?
That's it.
Committee reports, police station update.
Good evening, Council. Just a quick update. We had some pretty good news at the end of last week. We had our Phase 2 report come in, and also an appraisal on a property that we're looking at. And so we should have a purchase agreement signed soon with one of the landowners, and that will allow me to disclose my number one location. The Phase 2 had nothing concerning in it. We had a meeting on Friday morning with the developer, Patriot, who did the Phase 2, and Trent Newport from Crossroads, and we went through that. All good news. So very excited to move forward, and once we get that agreement, then I'll move on to the other landowners. Any questions? While I'm up here, I will say that tomorrow night at Chalice Park on South 9th, we do have our National Night Out. We'll have several vendors down there, including Brosini's Pizza, who they're a good friend of ours, and I think Kona Ice is going to be down there, so bring your family and kids, and we'll be down there. I think, oh, and I also do have a hiring process going on, too. So we closed on our applications today, and this is the first time the last process, I think we ended up with 64 applicants, 46 showed up, and after the first day of testing, we were already down to 24 or something. And we closed today, and I received 21 applications for 4 spots. So it's not getting any easier. However, I'd say 7 or 8 of them do have our ILEA certified, which is good for us. So that should help move this process along quicker.
The ABC did not meet today, but since we last met, they've had 2 renewals, Scarlet Grove and Payless Liquors on Albany. The RDC has not met. Compliance Division, you should have a report in your packet. And we did not hear from the Greenscape Commission. The only pending report is financial. Jim?
Good evening. City Hall is now open to the public. Citizens can pay their sewer bills in person, online, by phone, mail, or by dropping payments off in one of the 2 24-hour drop boxes. Information on the American Rescue Plan funding continues to be updated. The City of Beech Grove will receive $3,372,364.37 in total for our share. This will be divided into 2 deposits. The first deposit of $1,686,182.18 was received on July 28th and received into Fund 176, which the City Council approved earlier this year. The second installment will be made 12 months from the first deposit. I will include the balance of Fund 176 under the corporation total each month below. This council will have to develop and approve a plan so the money can be spent. We will begin meeting with department heads regarding their budgets this month, with the council workshop to be planned in September. The council will hear the budget on October 4th on first reading only. The second and third readings will take place on October 18th. If council members are interested in joining the conversation in budget development, please let me or the mayor know. Bank account balances are listed below as of today, August 2nd, 2021. City Corporation, $6,126,567.86. Of that, Fund 176 ARP balance $1,686,182.18. Utilities, $1,667,744.52. Criminal Investigation Fund, $83,954.17. RDC General, $555,483.37. RDC Debt Service, $240,000. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Respectfully submitted, James Kaufman.
Thank you, Jim. Any comments for the questions for the clerk?
Jim, I got a question. When we receive the sewer bills from the, from everyone, how much does it total up to per month?
Total bill for the whole entire city?
Yeah, what is that roughly?
I'd say for the whole month, it's going to include sewer, trash, and stormwater. I'd say 250-ish.
250?
Don't quote me
I
on
was just
that, but I would say
thinking-
somewhere around there.
I was just thinking we got 1.6 in there right now. It'd be nice to see what the mayor thinks, maybe down the road this year, giving the citizens either a break or a discount, seeing how we got this extra money coming in.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're going to have to adjust your rates upwards.
Well, with 1.6 in there, I don't know how we would.
We have pending projects that's going to eat up about half of that. Plus, the city's still dependent on the ROI and pilot. That hasn't been moved over. That's another 500,000. So I say we stay the course, and if you look at this chart back here, it's no secret where this is going. This is going to be astronomical in a couple of years. And I know
Just
we're
an
doing
idea.
a lot of work on the sewers, but the cost to treat wastewater is going to continue to go up through 2029.
Just an idea. Just an idea.
Yeah, it's an idea. All right, council, we'll move on to unfinished business. General Ordinance Number 5, 2021 is up for approval on third and final reading. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to read General Ordinance Number 5, 2021 into the record for third reading.
General Ordinance Number 5, 2021 is an ordinance that adds a new federal holiday to the City of Beech Grove's Personnel Manual. Whereas Congress recently passed legislation proclaiming Juneteenth as a national holiday, and whereas President Biden recently signed this legislation into law, and whereas June 19th of each year is now proclaimed Juneteenth holiday, and employees shall be afforded the same benefits for this holiday as they receive for other established holidays. Now therefore be it affirmed that the Common Council desires to amend the City of Beech Grove Personnel Manual to include Juneteenth as a recognized holiday in the City of Beech Grove. Now therefore be it further affirmed that the Common Council instructs that the following federal holiday be inserted into the City of Beech Grove Personnel Manual. Juneteenth holiday. Now therefore be it affirmed that this ordinance only applies to the above listed federal holiday. Now therefore be it further affirmed that the Common Council desires that employees are compensated in the same manner for this federal holiday as they are for all others. Now therefore be it further affirmed that this ordinance shall go into effect 30 days after passage by the Common Council, signed by the Council President Pro Tem, attested by the Clerk Treasurer, and signed by the Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. And General Ordinance Number 5, 2021 is up for approval on third and final reading this evening. This time I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make said motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Please register your vote. Pardon me. That concludes unfinished business. We have two items under new business. The first item is Resolution Number 5, 2021, which is an interlocal agreement between IFD and Beech Grove Fire Department. Council, back in May 19th, you voted to enter into an agreement for fire protection services with the City of Indianapolis by a vote of 4-3. Since that time, there has been a lot of work done on this. Kudos goes out to our attorney, Craig Wiley, Rich McDermott, the counsel for the City of Indianapolis, Chief Malone, Chief White, and Hank Harris, several other peoples, Brent Hennaday, Nick Bell, and I can go on and on and on. But through many meetings and many conference calls, we've come to this agreement. And it is a good agreement for both the City of Indianapolis and the City of Beech Grove. So before I turn it over to Craig, I would like to hear from Chief Malone. Chief, would you like to make a couple comments? I don't want to call Hannafy up here. I got dinner at 10. Come on up, Chief.
Mr. Mayor.
Good.
Good evening, counselors. Certainly will entertain any questions. We support this interlocal because we support the citizens of Beech Grove. We support this city. I support the men and women of the Beech Grove Fire Department. We have an excellent working relationship, and we think we can expand services. Beech Grove has a wonderful fire department and, again, wonderful members, but we think together we can make it better. Some of the comments earlier I will clarify for you before you take your vote. As to the previous townships, those townships had a taxing rate which in every case was higher than the tax rate for the city of Indianapolis. Once those mergers were, and we can call those mergers, we can't call this a merger because state statute doesn't allow an excluded city to merge. That's why we're using the terminology of an interlocal, and there's a fee attached. Those folks have tax dollars that are paid to the city of Indianapolis for fire protection services. Those rates, let's say it was a 0.50 for whatever township. I believe most of those IFD was considerably lower than that. There's townships still in our area that are triple the cost of IFD, and while wonderful fire departments, I can guarantee you they're not 3 times better than the Indianapolis Fire Department. In every case of a township merger, citizens enjoyed a less taxing rate prior to the merger, every single taxing rate. We have mutual aid agreements. Beech Grove comes in and helps us. We come in and certainly help with Beech Grove. I'll give you an example. You can't put out a fire with a single engine, a residence fire room and contents, rescue people, do a good job with a single resource. It takes about 30 people on what we call a still or box alarm. Today, if we're going to send 30 people to a residence fire in Beech Grove, 6 of those people may be Beech Grove firefighters and 24 of those people will be Indianapolis firefighters. And that is at no charge. There is no mechanism in Marion County where Beech Grove residents are paying taxes for Indianapolis Fire Services. That doesn't exist. It's just based on what is a mutual aid agreement, and mutual aid has changed over time. Beech Grove has gotten bigger, it's gotten more complex, the hazards are greater, and we come down, and there's no cost for that. So the time is now. I support it. The mayor works Beech Grove finances, I don't. He has said since our first meeting that this will provide considerable savings over time for the city, and he wants to reinvest those dollars in other places, specifically the police department, which is his charge to do, certainly not ours. So I ask you to support it for the reasons I started my comments with, for the services and citizens of Beech Grove, for the men and women of the Beech Grove Fire Department and the Indianapolis Fire Department. We'll do you a good job and we'll make you proud every day. You have my word on it. I'll take any questions for you.
I just want to make a comment about the National Fire Conference that's in Indianapolis. Chief?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I just want to make a comment, just tell the community about the National Fire Conference that's in Indianapolis this coming days, correct?
Yeah, the Fire Department Instructors Conference, FDIC. Yeah. Typically, there's 35,000 firefighters from all over the world
Yes.
here. Conference is held in April. It's here now this week. We spent a big part of our day meeting firefighters and talking to them. It's about 20,000 here in August, and we'll do it again next April, and hopefully we'll be back up to that 35, 36,000. But we're very, very pleased with the climate we're in. That 20,000 firefighters, again, from all over the world are enjoying our city. getting better training and going back and providing enhanced services to their individual communities.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anything else, sir?
Thanks, Chief.
All right, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll defer to legal counsel, Craig, for comments.
Sure. I want to publicly thank our fire chief, Rob Cheshire and Jim Pierce for their professionalism and their participation in this process. When the city first considered this back in 2014, I grew up in a household that was fiercely independent. Anytime Indianapolis wanted to encroach, whether it be our schools or our fire protection services or our police, it was greatly offensive to that generation, and so that's the way I always was. So when this was rolled out back in 2014, I gotta be honest with you, I don't know if I was necessarily for it, because I wasn't educated on what our fire protection services could and couldn't do at the time, and so when this was brought up again last October, it's been a 10-month process, folks, with myself and the Deputy Corporation Counsel, Rich McDermott, going back and forth on drafts, and to say it's a one-sided agreement, I just can't tell you how much I disagree with that based on some of the conversations I had with Mr. McDermott, which I wouldn't want my kids to hear. I'll tell you that. Some of the topics we had to address, and we got furious at each other, and we wouldn't talk for days and get back on the phone and pick it back up. This was not something that, again, it wasn't done in 2 weeks. It's been a 10-month process. What I've learned throughout this process is that if we stay in this business, we're going to have to make a significant investment in our fire department that, quite frankly, the city is not going to be able to afford. And it's going to affect other services that the city can provide. And in my participation in this process, I've come to the conclusion that we should enhance our fire protection services and focus on our police. I made a statement that I know drew some fire about there's going to come a time where we're going to start competing with the school townships and some other small towns here in Marion County for police, and that's not far off, folks. If we can't enhance the benefits for our police department, we're not going to get. You heard the chief say tonight that what did he say? He had 46 people and he was down to 20 something as far as for applications. I know a friend of mine went through this process back in the late 90s. There were 300 applications. So, it's a tough decision. I get it. I understand people like you, buddy, who you're one of those people that grew up in my father's generation where, this would have been very unpalatable for them. But I got to believe that if my father were alive today, he would do what's in the best interest of the city of Beech Grove. And again, after being educated on this process, we can't, in our current financial position and in our current state of our fire department, we can't provide a first-class service for the city of Beech Grove. And this is the way to do it, is to enter into this fire protection agreement. The agreement speaks for itself. It's a 20-year agreement. If it's passed tonight, it'll go to the City County Council, I believe, has already got the same draft. It's going to go through their Public Safety Committee, and it'll be heard at a council meeting probably sometime later, maybe in October or November. And then once it's passed, and when we pass it, it will take effect. I think right now it's December 25th because of the pay periods. Any questions for me about the contents of the agreement? I'll be happy to address it publicly.
I have one comment. What was the original agreement amount, just starting out with 2022? The amount of money here, an example, is $3,246,000, which kind of can be confusing for our budget because our budget also combines EMS, which this doesn't. So it's pretty much close to what our budget amount is currently. But what was the original amount? I mean, we thought we negotiated. What was the original?
I don't think that figure's changed since day one.
Yeah, it hadn't changed from day one.
Okay. What, can you bring up one particular thing in the agreement that has changed?
Since when?
Since the original, because one thing the council did was, for
for you to go into arbitration or agreement or to work out an agreement. And I'm just wondering where on Beech Grove's end did anything change, would you say, a little bit better from day one to this day today?
You want me to answer that?
Go ahead.
The 37 and 77 pension.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
As far as the city's obligation, you mean? Okay.
Yeah, as far as any disputes, we have in there, where the parties will get together and meet and confer. There's a mediation before that, and then, so essentially there'll be a meet and confer, then a mandated contractual mediation if there's still a dispute, and if the parties still can't agree, then they can initiate a legal process. But even up to I think the 19th year of the agreement, the parties are supposed to meet twice that year to come to some sort of understanding on the continuation of the agreement as far as price and all that.
Are these agreements as passed? Are they in stone? I mean, you know the old saying, we give raises sometimes based on the cost of living. And someone did bring up a good fact about assessed valuations and so forth within our budget. These seem to assume assessed valuation increases actually bigger than what I would imagine, or possibility of money coming from somewhere else. It doesn't always have to be assessed valuations. But my question is, are they in concrete? Because it's making the assumption in 2041 about, I mean, that's a good price in 2041. I have no idea. But it doesn't look like the agreements are based upon yearly assessments, yearly information, or even 2 years.
One of the firefighters Nick Bell got up at that public meeting and said that they went back for, I think, how many budgets? I think it was back 20 years. And they said that the average increase per year was over 4%. This is a 3% increase per year.
That could be, it's just like our schools found out when we went through tax caps, and the opposite, where it was the first time in their history under Paul Kaiser, they said in the schools that they dropped backwards on that. You know, when we're talking about a tight budget like ours, a small drop back, and it's a lot of futuristic. So that's the reason I was just asking if these were set in stone was one, just as the same as the evaluation of the fire department. If we find it to be problems there, we're also possibly deciding whether Beech Grove or Indianapolis is going to, what they're going to pay on the firehouse, which was basically totally paid for out of this city, whether it would come out of different pockets of money. So that's one of the things in here. I think it's on
Page 3.
Oh, thank you. You know what I'm talking about. Maybe because we talked. It just says here, page 3, you go close to the bottom, basically starts out about structural issues identified at one of the fire stations. And it just says that it will decide who will bear the cost and need of repairs. And it looks like that's, I mean, if you're buying a car, you would ask these questions, and we're representing the city of Beech Grove, so I don't think these are and I'm not saying you have the answers, but I just want anybody to know why my concerns are here. And I was going to bring this up after we read it in, but there is no question I have great respect for the Indianapolis Fire Department and for the chief and for our firemen. Matter of fact, I could speak highly of them, and if I could take a moment and go back 11 years ago, we had less firemen and an 11-story hospital in our city. And I know I was in charge of communications, and I know that probably 90% of the time we handled our own. There's some things in there that are true. Some of our trucks, we might have operated 3 trucks. Sometimes they didn't have the proper manpower on it. That could be one thing looked at, to be fair. We had one of the best response times in the county. I think this gentleman over here was chief and even was reporting on Apple Star as one of the best response times. Our ambulance had one of the best response times. You see, our fire department was designed for a 5-mile structure. That's why it's what it is. Speedway is the same. If we were as big as the city of Indianapolis, we would actually have more apparatus and more people in the square 15 miles, I believe I've been told, that we can go out. It's like our ambulance, the response time to a home was fantastic. And of course now our ambulances could be down on County Line Road. And that's one of the things I want to share too here with the contract is, and maybe I'll get this out now and I'll say anything later, is that the majority of these calls, our people go to Indianapolis. So we look like it's Indianapolis always coming to our aid. And based on the structure of dispatch in one truck, we do need their truck here because we've changed the way we dispatch out of CAD. We've changed the way we handle things differently. That might be to the better. I'm not a firefighter in that case. But the point is that I was told at one time, 7 out of 10 runs are in Indianapolis. So we're asking the people of Beech Grove to pay almost their budget amount, which they have been doing anyway, under probably the same protocol, to take runs outside of Beech Grove. That's why I thought it's pretty high. We run our structure off, 36 firefighters. They're going to run theirs off 16 to 20 firefighters. When it comes to apparatus, some of the apparatus is already there. Somebody say we don't have a ladder truck. I can point to where it used to be. It was down on the canal because we give it away. I don't know if it was a process to look weaker, but we've given away good apparatus that maybe we didn't have the manpower to run it, they might say. But we used to do this. I don't know how it happened. I dispatched our crew day after day, and we were able to handle these calls. And again, with 11-story hospital, and less firemen. So that's another thing about the agreement when it comes to money. A big portion of this, it seems like everyone's admitted, is sending our apparatus, or soon-to-be Indianapolis apparatus, into Indianapolis, because we're only talking 5 square miles. We're probably going to double the square miles or more, and Beech Grove's bearing the burden on it. We didn't bear it 10 years ago. We took care of Beech Grove. We needed Indianapolis or Franklin Township, we'd call them, and they would call us. I don't think they really 100% had to have us. They had a lot of places to pull from. But in 10 years, this is what's changed. It's changed our mindset too, what we used to be. So I think my argument too is that since we have changed, Beech Grove apparatus in the past would operate out of Beech Grove. We're going to be paying big money, almost our budget amount money, to be operating in the Indianapolis area for the most part. So my point is I just think the numbers are kind of high, for one thing.
When somebody calls for help, we don't go because they don't live in Beech Grove?
Chief, you know good and well how we used to do it. If someone really needed our help, if Indianapolis really needed our ambulance at County Line and Emerson, we'd go, but they didn't. They had sufficient with Wishart at the time.
You know that with the new CAD now, that it seeks the closest engine, and the closest engine for a call down where you live is not Beech Grove. It's the city of Indianapolis.
But our Beech Grove apparatus, and I really want to get in this debate, but the city of Indianapolis, when you talk about it, if there was no Beech Grove Fire Department here, and we disposed of ourselves even as a city, they'd have to build one. Because they got one over here and there.
You said that Beech Grove residents are paying to go into Indianapolis. How about the Indianapolis residents paying 7 out of 10 runs?
Well, we're trying to combine cities to cities. It'd be nice to be thinking more like Lawrence or Speedway. And that's another debate. You could decide how much money Speedway has in industrial money coming in to support their, actually population-wise, Speedway is lower than Beech Grove.
One of the contentions is that we pay a one-time fee of $130,000 before October to, I think, put these guys in new gear to meet the Indianapolis spec. That's a good thing, because if we didn't do this, the chief was going to replace gear this year for every firefighter. It was time to do that, and at a cost of $170,000. So there's just another minute incident to where you're saving a little money. Your public safety tax doesn't go away. Your county option income tax doesn't go away.
Well, I hope not, because we got a big bill to pay. So I hope not.
So that's good news. That's good news.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Just, how come a 20-year contract? Why not a 5 or 10? What's the thinking behind making it 20 years?
Why would you want to do a 5-year contract on this? If we're in a much better negotiating position if we go long-term as opposed to short-term.
No, just because, like somebody said earlier, you don't know what we're going to have coming in, I just think a 5-year outlook is more justifiable than a 20-year.
Well, once you go 1 or 2, you might be right, but once you go 1 or 2 years or 3 years, trying to come back into the same position you was at would probably be somewhat impossible. So once it's done, it's done.
A locked-in rate at 3%. What if after 5 years, the city of Indianapolis looks at this and says, you know what? Fire protection services are going up 5%. Why are we going to agree to 3%? This is not in our best interest. And now that they have our equipment and our guys, they're in a superior negotiating position. So that's why we went out 20 years.
I would agree with you there. Mayor, does this city council really have the power? I mean, we're talking about an agreement. Would this not be now I'm sincere of the answer on this one about the Board of Works. Would they not be the ones that really do this, or is there something that I'm kind of missing? And
No, you're not missing
And first of all, I
anything
wanted
at
to
all.
stop one way on that. I appreciate you bringing it for us, though, for this discussion, though.
With the police station, the Board of Works could have handled every bit of it. I didn't have any reason to include all of you, but I didn't think that was right. I felt that the legislative body should have input on the police department and the police station. It's that important. The Board of Works will probably hear it. We're going to hear it on August 12th for the BOT agreement for financing of the police department. We're going to hear that on August 12th at 7 p.m. in these chambers. Same way with the agreement for fire protection. I could have ran this completely through the Board of Works, not even brought it up, but I didn't want to. I wanted the council to have input, and I wanted to be open about it and transparent about it, and I wanted to hear what you had to say.
You have done it. I had a question, though, and I don't believe this is going to fail. That's part of, we kind of sometimes have a feeling up here how things will go, so I'm not looking for this to fail up here. So it's a good chance to bring some things out in the open. But if this council did vote against it, it wouldn't stop here then, right? I mean, it would go probably still to the Board of Works. Right?
Probably.
Okay. So it's just a chance, really what we're doing is getting a chance to be able to talk openly about something going on.
But I'm being open to all of you, and I want you to have input. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to have you make decisions based on the people you represent.
Mr. Wiley, I have no other questions at this time.
But, well, like he's saying, if it doesn't pass here, ultimately it's the Board of Works decision, either way, right? So, really to vote on it is really a waste of time.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Since I did jab, I hope our firefighters, which I guess if this passes, will still be part of the community in the sense of whoever is here. We want to always support our public safety, police and fire, whatever patch they wear. I don't want any of that to be separate from that. But I just try to look at what's a good deal in the long range for the city and the firefighters. I think you'll get there one way or the other. But it certainly doesn't hurt for somebody once to maybe say, come on now, this is a little bit much money. You know, if that's the problem, if this was to fail here, maybe someone would go back and negotiate, maybe give us some strength. We're going to make decisions the next 20 years about our fire safety. It might be the best decision made, but it'll be the decision that other people elected to the city are going to have to make. And sometimes it doesn't hurt to say, go back to the drawing board. What else can we do? Can we get a better deal financially? Because if we are left financially, the council over here has talked to the policemen. We talked about a raise. I'm not looking for a raise to come out of what extra the mayor thinks there could be, and I hope he's right. I'm looking at money within our budget that can help the police. Getting rid of the fire department is not a plan to say, hey, I'm going to give the police more money. It's just that one thing about this today, and I'm being long-winded, that's so important, and the firemen are right about this, is that when you go out and do a job and protect people, you deserve the right amount of pay. Not only just pay, but those things that go around that job, safety and so forth. So that's why we have brought up recently about the police department, because we've learned our lesson a little bit. We've learned that our policemen protect our lives, and we want to make sure we take care of them the best we can financially. So I just wanted to make that statement, because sometimes you can think, boy, he's anti-fireman. I've been endorsed by Local 416, probably for the last time, but the last couple of times. And it was a proud thing for that moment to have those people come together for that. Thank you.
If I could say something real quick. If I'm not mistaken, this $3.2 million that figure was not just pulled from the air. That is the figure on what IFD cost them to operate a one-engine house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So just so everybody understands that is what the actual cost that IFD currently budgets for a one-engine house. One thing that really wasn't talked about was that it is projected over the next 10 years, we're going to have approximately $12 million worth of assets that needs to be replaced for the fire department. I know we're all complaining about how tight the budget is and stuff like that. How are we going to come up with an estimated $2 million a year to help cover those estimated costs without raising the taxes to the citizens of Beech Grove to help fund those?
That should be their
replace those
choice, though,
assets?
shouldn't it, Counselor? That how strong they want an independent city, there do things raised. You know, we had these same talks back in the 70s, 80s. How are we going to make it? We had people that were well enough to make things work. This is an argument about better. And then you brought up a good statement. How much it costs to operate a firehouse? Yes. The Beech Grove responsibility part of it's 5 miles. I'm sure, and the chief could have answered this one, maybe be better, maybe there's population involved, but how the range of a firehouse is bigger than 5 miles, even if it's to back up another firehouse, as you said about where my house is located. So what we're doing is we're taking this money of what we would pay for a 5-mile structure, which was not too bad having that many firemen, but it's bigger than that. So I feel like we're paying for part of Indianapolis's field, is what I'd say. Maybe there's no other way to get around that, but.
And one thing that was brought up at the town hall that we had at Hornet Park was, what if we go to one firehouse, reduce the number of firefighters, increase their pay to IFD pay? But once you take that small number of firefighters, increase their pay, increase their benefits, increase everything else, you're going to be pretty much at the exact same cost that's coming up here.
You're almost talking double the firefighters.
But I'm talking about if we go ourselves to just one firehouse, but increase their pay and their benefits to match IFD, then we're going to be right at the same cost.
We'd have to lay off 15 firefighters.
Right.
But that's my point. It's still a money thing here. We're not thinking of it in those terms, and that's fine. I know some of us up here want to support the firefighters so much that this could be $15 million and we'd be voting yes today, based upon the stories. But it's a bigger amount that when you bring it down to our size of the city.
Hey, buddy, I think you said we're paying for Indianapolis. I bet Chief Malone has a different take on that based on the Amtrak fire we had. How much Indianapolis had to take control of that fire. And if they had to send us a bill just for that event, it would be pretty astronomical from what I hear.
I'm not here to dispute the Indianapolis's assistance or help on that, no. So. We used to have to, somebody asked me what the difference in a township was. Well, township's not that's why we're having an agreement. We're not having a merger. And maybe our people of the state realize that they did not make it a possibility for government. And I can name some cities as big as Gary, Indiana, that need help from the state to supply their fire department. Maybe that's what, there's an answer. Nobody goes up and takes them over and holds their hand or gives them anything else. They just got to make it work. So I guess the bigger you are, if Indianapolis tomorrow had a financial problem, I don't believe their fire department, they might be hurt by it, but they're not going to go down too far. They're going to always have the help they're needed. So, but it's what it is right here, and I just brought out my concerns, so.
Resolution number 5, 2021 is up for approval this evening. At this time, I ask the clerk to read the resolution into the record, please.
Resolution number 5, 2021 adopts an interlocal agreement between the City of Beech Grove and the Consolidated City of Indianapolis for fire prevention and protection services. Agreement attached here to its Exhibit A. Whereas for over a century, Beech Grove has operated its own fire department to engage in fire prevention and protection services. Whereas Indianapolis and Beech Grove currently have mutual aid agreements for fire prevention and protection services. Whereas over half of this Beech Grove Fire Department's runs are conducted outside the corporate boundaries of the City of Beech Grove. Whereas Indiana law permits municipalities to enter into interlocal agreements for fire prevention and protection services. Whereas at the time of this adoption of this resolution, Indiana law does not provide a mechanism by which an excluded city or town in Marion County can consolidate its fire prevention and protection services with Indianapolis. Whereas substantial operational efficiencies, a reduction of administrative costs, and economies of scale may be obtained through entering into this agreement. Whereas the purpose of this agreement is for Indianapolis to provide fire prevention and protection services to Beech Grove in exchange for monetary compensation and other assets. In addition, firefighter personnel shall become employed by Indianapolis, which shall also accept administrative and financial management of the pensions of those personnel. Whereas the Common Council held 2 public meetings to address citizen concerns to determine whether entering into this agreement is in its best interest of the city. Whereas the Common Council, having been advised by various persons and organizations with respect to the anticipated consequences of entering into such agreement, now finds that such agreement will serve the public interest in the provision of a commensurate level of fire prevention and protection services for Beech Grove. Whereas the Common Council finds that entering into this agreement serves the public interest by resulting in the provision of an enhanced level of public safety and fire prevention and protection services with greater efficiency and at a lower cost. Whereas Beech Grove will continue to operate its own emergency medical service independent of Indianapolis, and it will continue to do so beyond the operational date of this agreement. Whereas upon the adoption of this resolution, the Indianapolis City County Council will consider the agreement for approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Common Council desires to enter into the agreement, and now therefore be it further resolved that this resolution will be immediately approved upon passage by the Common Council, signed by the Council President Pro Tem, attested by the Clerk Treasurer, and signed by the Mayor.
Thank you. Resolution number 5, 2021 is up for approval. This time I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call vote, beginning on my far right. Kara?
Sure you don't want to start over there? Just thought I'd break the ice, sorry. Yes.
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 Yes. No.
No.
The resolution passes 5-2. Next order of business is a nepotism certificate, conflict of interest, and contract certification approvals for Ryan Matkins. Jim?
Let me get this going first real quick, sir. Use that pen.
That pen's for Matt Lamping.
So sign that one for me.
Hey, that's a good pen. I got some at St. Francis.
So you said the resolution?
Yeah, I need the resolution and the agreement. There's 2 signature pages over here, right?
No. There's not. I can get one. I have one. Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm sorry.
This is the agreement.
There it is. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That agreement is the most one-sided agreement I've
So
ever seen in
council,
my
please
life.
register your vote to the resolution.
There's a
and the
resolution
agreement.
and also the agreement that was in your packet.
What's this thing I'm signing?
That's the resolution.
Okay, good. Well, I just wanted to know, make sure I'm signing the right stuff.
Yes, that's the resolution. Yes, sir. And that's the actual big agreement for the whole entire.
I'll sign it with that pen. I want to give it to Matt.
I think I signed that wrong.
Commissioner certainly is.
What's this one?
Oh, room cleared out quick.
Oh, I was surprised more.
Okay, Jim, do you have nepotism?
Yes. So, so every year, this city council members have to submit a
This is a pen that I got
City of
from
Beech
work
Grove
today, so I
contract
said we should sign
certification.
it with this pen, 'cause it-
and
if
also
you
a
want to.
City of Beech Grove
You want- I'm gonna
nepotism
give it to Matt
certificate. Mr. Matkins being the most recently appointed council member, he needs to submit these to the council. So he does not have any conflict to disclose, so he does not have to sign the conflict form. But he did submit a City of Beech Grove nepotism certificate and a City of Beech Grove contract certification, as you all did as well earlier this year. So we just need a approval for that, so I can submit those on the gateway.
Is that
You sign something else?
I gotta sign, okay.
Do we need to make a motion to approve them?
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the 2 City of Beech Grove forms for nepotism and contract certification for Counselor Ryan Matkins.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the same sign. That concludes new business. Council comments. Buddy?
I do want to say, our Promoters Club that came out here today, what a great organization they've been to the community. Like, I can speak from the Little League point of view, and it was good seeing Rick here, and of course, I'll just leave it at that. The Promoters Club, I hope there's something we can do to help them out. Thank you.
I don't have.
Or if you want to, you don't have to use that.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming.
But if you want to, you can.
I'd like to reiterate what the mayor said earlier about losing a citizen, Linda Harris. I worked with her for 10, 12 years. Her husband was on the city council. And I think he will actually run for mayor once. And it's really it was unexpected. And she was a great person for the city. That's all I got.
First, I'd like to thank Crossroads and Mr. Fox for coming out and giving an update. I appreciate that. Even though like we've talked in person about it, it's good that we get this out in a public forum because there's a lot of citizens that have these questions, and that's the main reason for having you guys come out and give an update on that. There's a lot of interest, and they had a lot of questions on the progress of it. Thank you for giving that. I know I'm excited for the trail to be completed. I will wait till it's done before I walk on it. But I know that that's going to be an exciting thing for the city, and I know my kids will probably hate me because I'll make them go on it with me. Also, the mayor included an email to us from Ms. Hendricks for the Drug Free Coalition. It's exciting news that they were awarded a grant to buy the police department bicycles so that they can patrol the trail and also have those for other functions throughout the city. So that is exciting. So that's a cost that the department and the city does not have to put forward, and that grant was for $10,000. I do know that those bikes are not cheap. They're pretty expensive, but they are very well-made bikes. So I'm excited about that, and that just shows that we have nonprofits that are actually working to help benefit the city, and just not the city help benefit the nonprofits out here. I also just want to mention I have a friend, and there's also a big supporter of the city. She was part of the Citizens on Patrol. Also started the Crime Watch in District 3. Miss Linda Gray, she's currently in the hospital fighting COVID. I work with her son through the city of Indianapolis. He informed me of it, so just want to say that my thoughts and prayers go out to her, and if you guys don't mind also. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank everybody for coming. Just good to work together. Like Councilor Ferguson said, I really encourage everyone to get your vaccination. Please get your vaccination so we can limit this COVID transmission chain. Let's all do this together so we can prevent people from getting sick. So thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I know we've had to vote on some pretty hard topics this evening, and after looking at the numbers, it really, after being a resident of 26 years, it really just became a no-brainer on my end as to where we is at. What Buddy said, I'll go with Promoters Club, great organization. I feel blessed to have them here. They do great things, always have. Hope we can keep them here and help them out. Thank you.
So I'd just like to say thanks to everybody, all my peers here on the council. I think that, and I don't know if it's been like that forever or not. I can say it's probably not been this way, but we've just really been able to make decisions and be so respectful of one another and our different opinions and where we come from. And I think that that's something today to be really valued of how we can do that. I feel like I can sit and have a conversation with anybody up here, well, except for the guy in the blue. Sometimes we, but I think that that's something to be said, especially for the citizens, to be able to say, hey, my city councilors can have conversations, difficult conversations, and not agree always, but do it in such a respectful way, and yet come together for our city. I think that should be noted. So that's all I have to say.
Mayor, before you say anything, Mayor, could I add to that?
Sure.
Buddy's my neighbor, and I know his feelings on that matter, and I respect his opinion. Although I think he's wrong.
You're going to say it oh so kind.
Buddy always has good input on a lot of matters. So.
I think Harrison took my car keys too, but that's another.
Well, I'm parked behind Day, so he can't go anywhere tonight.
Council, August the 12th at 7 p.m., the Board of Works will meet to decide on the financing of the new police station. The public's invited, but that's going to be held here in these chambers on Thursday, August the 12th,
Is a Thursday, okay.
7 p.m. Our next regularly scheduled council meeting is Tuesday, September the 7th, due to Labor Day. But I may call a special meeting of the council and the RDC together should movement be made on this project you approved tonight. They've applied for some help, for some assistance, and we'll just see how it plays out. But the time frame is somewhere between the last week of August and the first week of September. So if it falls like that, I'll call for a special meeting of the council and the redevelopment commission. So, and then I hope all of you are you getting your emails?
No. We're going to talk to you about that afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or Jim.
I'll get 'em, yeah.
Or Jim, yeah.
So Kevin, you're not getting yours?
No.
Are you guys getting yours?
I was having issues also.
I get emails, but not the amount that I got from before.
Okay. Jim, can you,
Probably nobody
Yeah,
has.
I can send them, yeah.
can you work with them?
Yeah,
Has there
yeah,
been
absolutely.
an amount?
There's a
Okay.
phone number you can call with the help desk, and we can absolutely get it set in, absolutely.
What is the new email address? Is it, it's through Windows?
It's through Microsoft.
So it's our regular email.
Your
instead of
regular-
email, it's Microsoft.com.
No, it's at beachgrove.com.
Jim, could you just send us all to like if we give you all our personal emails, can you just send out a new like, hey, this is step by
new-
step? Because we're struggling too.
So we go
Yes.
to we go to the Microsoft page, type in our email
Portal,
address.
yes, yeah, so it was in their packet back in
You can't.
whatever that was. So if you go to portal dot
Did.
whatever it was, I have to look it up now, but you go to that one on your phone and you can put in your name and the password that was given to you.
Mine disappeared. I got the
Is it my
password.
son?
And
My
go
son
from there.
went ahead and put it, he positioned it.
I had to get
automatically
help
comes up
do it on
the
my
toolbar,
phone. So
I just click
computer
on
was very easy, but getting on my phone, I couldn't figure out my phone either, so they had to
Yeah.
take
so
my phone
that's
from me
not
and
really-
log it on
Who
my
did
phone.
you talk to when you did that?
It was Jay or Vaughn. Oh, DCC or IT guys.
What is the email address if you do have to go through Microsoft Office?
I have to get to it. It's
Okay.
my.portal.
Oh.
I don't know.
I'll just drop you my card and you can. Send that.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Hang on.